अच्छा,
अब
चलिए रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही है अब।
ठीक है। So let's start today's meeting. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the March edition of the PACC social gathering event. We have this monthly gathering on the second Saturday of every month. And since the pandemic, we've been having it on Zoom. Before that, we used to meet in person and used to enjoy chai and pakoda, but unfortunately, that is no longer the case. But I trust you all have some chai and something to eat with it at home. Okay, so today's topic will be financial and technology trends for the 2020s, presented by Mr. Asghar Aboobaker. But before we get into the details, as usual, we will have first few minutes, some poetry or some other things that people want to talk about. So, Tasadduq Bhai or Mahmood Bhai, do you have anything you want to?
कुछ है, मेरे पास कुछ है.
चलें, over to you.
अच्छा, मुझे कहा. अच्छा, अब मेरे पास एक रुबाई है जो आप लोग समाप्त फरमाएं. चमन में तख्त पर जिस दम शहे गुल का तजम्मुल था. चमन में तख्त पर जिस दम शहे गुल का तजम्मुल था. हजारों बुलबुलें थी बाग में, एक शोर था, गुल था. खुली जब आंख नरगिस की, न था जुज खार कुछ बाकी. खुली जब आंख नरगिस की, न था जुज खार कुछ बाकी. बताता बागबां रो रो, यहाँ गुलचा यहाँ गुल था. ये एक रुबाई थी. और मेरे पास एक कली में एजाज साहब की एक गजल है, वो भी समाप्त फरमाए. पहलू न दुखेगा तो गुजारा नहीं होगा. पहलू न दुखेगा तो गुजारा नहीं होगा. हमसा भी कोई दर्द का मारा नहीं होगा. सुने है कभी मेरी भी गजल सुन. तू सबकी सुने है कभी मेरी गजल सुन. फिर ऐसा खुश आवाज दोबारा नहीं होगा. फिर ऐसा दोबारा नहीं होगा. जिस दर्द से हम तुझको दिया करते हैं आवाज. जिस दर्द से दिया करते हैं आवाज. बुलबुल ने भी यूं गुल को पुकारा नहीं होगा. बुलबुल ने भी यूं गुल को पुकारा नहीं होगा. शमशीर कभी वक्त की चल ही नहीं सकती. शमशीर कभी वक्त की चल ही नहीं सकती. जब तक किसी चितवन का इशारा नहीं होगा. जब तक किसी चितवन का इशारा नहीं होगा. कल होगी अगर आज परेशान नहीं होगी. कल होगी अगर आज परेशान नहीं होगी. वो जुल्फ जिसे हमने संवारा नहीं होगा. वो जुल्फ जिसे हमने संवारा नहीं होगा. जब तर्क ताल्लुक का सितम झेल चुके हैं. जब तर्क ताल्लुक का सितम झेल चुके हैं. फिर कौन सा गम है जो गवारा नहीं होगा. फिर कौन सा गम है जो गवारा नहीं होगा. हमको कोई उम्मीद जमाने से नहीं है. हमको कोई उम्मीद जमाने से नहीं है, जो तेरा हुआ है वो हमारा नहीं होगा, जो तेरा हुआ है वो हमारा नहीं होगा, पहलू न दुखेगा तो गुजारा नहीं होगा, हमसा भी कोई दर्द का मारा नहीं होगा। शुक्रिया।
बहुत खूब, बहुत खूब।
वाह, बहुत अच्छे, शुक्रिया तसद्दुक भाई. And I see that Nasreen Bhabi has joined. So would you like to present a poem or something?
Yes, I would like to. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
मेरा गैलरी व्यू नहीं आ रहा, पता नहीं क्या बात है, सबको नहीं देख सकती.
चले, as long as असगर भाई को आप दे सकती हैं, बाकी तो
नहीं, असगर भाई को भी नहीं देख सकती. इस वक्त तो आपको देख रही हूँ. जो बोलता है वही नजर आता है.
हाँ, तो वही होगा ना, वैसा ही है.
नहीं नहीं, गैलरी व्यू भी हो सकता है. चलिए आप.
मैं पेश करती हूँ. तुम्हारे खत में, ये है दाग दहलवी का कलाम, और अगर YouTube पे सर्च करें तो गुलाम अली ने बहुत खूबसूरती से इसको गाया. तुम्हारे खत में नया एक सलाम किसका था, न था रकीब तो आखिर वो नाम किसका था. वो कत्ल करके मुझे हर किसी से पूछते हैं, ये काम किसने किया है, ये काम किसका था. वफा करेंगे, निभाएंगे, बात मानेंगे, तुम्हें भी याद है कुछ, ये कलाम किसका था.
वाह.
रहा न दिल में वो बेदर्द और दर्द रहा, मुकीम कौन हुआ, मुकाम किसका था. न पूछ गिछ थी किसी की वहां न आओ भगत, तुम्हारी बज़्म में कल एहतमाम किसका था. तमाम बज़्म जिसे सुन के रह गई मुश्ताक, कहो वो तज़किराए नाम किसका था. गुजर गया वो जमाना, कहूँ तो किससे कहूँ, ख्याल दिल को मेरे सुबह शाम किसका था. हर एक से कहते हैं क्या दाग बेवफा निकला, ये पूछिए उनसे कोई वो गुलाम किसका था. थैंक यू.
बहुत खूब, बहुत खूब.
Very good.
अच्छा, ये सबकी शक्ल नजर आनी चाहिए या क्या कह रहे थे आप?
गैलरी
जो
व्यू में
उसकी नजर आती है, क्या बोलता है उसका?
हाँ, ऊपर लेफ्ट में आपको व्यू नजर आ रहा है.
हाँ, एक
व्यू में आप जाएं, क्लिक करें तो गैलरी व्यू आएगा.
मेरे में आज नहीं आ रहा कुछ भी असर, हमेशा आता था. आज
तसद्दुक भाई को कह रहा हूं मैं.
अच्छा, तो
गैलरी व्यू पे जाएं तो सब तस्वीरें नजर आएंगी आपको.
ओ अच्छा.
हाँ,
मैं कोशिश करता हूँ.
हाँ, लेकिन सब उस पे नहीं होता. जैसे मेरे पास टैबलेट है, उस पे नहीं हो सकता ये.
असर आज मेरा गैलरी व्यू नहीं आ रहा. आप लोगों ने तो नहीं डिसेबल किया हुआ वहां से?
नहीं, मैं सब देख रहा हूं अभी.
जरा हमें भी.
There is one person who does not understand Urdu.
हाँ, सेल फोन है आपका?
उनका नाम है समी इब्राहिम.
हाँ, वो आ गए हैं.
जी.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम ब्रदर इब्राहिम. आप you are muted. Okay.
आगे चलें.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So should we continue?
Please do.
Okay. So thank you very much, Nasreen Bhabi. Very बहुत अच्छी शेर थे. और मैं सोच रहा था ये कहीं असगर भाई की तरफ मुखातिब तो नहीं थे शेर?
नहीं भाई.
जी नहीं.
असगर भाई को क्यों मुखातिब करूंगी?
Just kidding.
ये उस मशहूर में एक था ना, ख्याल दिल को मेरे सुबह शाम किसका था, आप गैस करते रहे।
जी वही हम सोच रहे थे किसका होगा आपको ख्याल। तो महमूद भाई, you have something you want to present a poem?
ये मेरे पास है, चंद अशार हैं उनके शौकत थानवी के। ये फैमिली प्लानिंग के बारे में उन्होंने कहा है। तो वो कहते हैं कि ये मेरे बच्चे, ये मेरे लख्ते जिगर पैदा ना हो, ये मेरे बच्चे, ये मेरे लख्ते जिगर पैदा न हो, याद कर तू पछताएगा, तू मेरे घर पैदा न हो। ये मेरे बच्चे, ये मेरे लख्ते जिगर पैदा न हो। और कहते हैं कि तुझको पैदाइश का हक तो है, तुझको पैदाइश का हक तो है, मगर पैदा न हो। मैं तेरा एहसान मानूंगा अगर पैदा न हो, मैं तेरा एहसान मानूंगा अगर पैदा न हो। ये मेरे बच्चे, मेरे लख्ते जिगर पैदा न हो। और कहते हैं कि हमने ये माना कि पैदा हो गया खाएगा क्या, हमने ये माना कि पैदा हो गया खाएगा क्या, घर में दाने ही न पाएगा, घर में दाने ही न पाएगा तो भुनवाएगा क्या, घर में दाने ही न पाएगा तो भुनवाएगा क्या। ये मेरे बच्चे, ये मेरे लख्ते जिगर पैदा न हो। शुक्रिया।
बहुत खूब, बहुत खूब।
बहुत अच्छा, बहुत अच्छा।
शुक्रिया महमूद भाई। So now if nothing else, nobody else has anything to say, we can start with the main presentation today. The presentation today is financial and technology trends for the 2020s, presented by Mr. Asghar Aboobaker. He will go over historical financial trends, future financial trends, and the technology trends over the last few years and projections for the next few years. Mr. Aboobaker is a long-time investor in equities and real estate, and he has written a book on personal financial planning. He has worked in high-tech companies for 34 years, and currently he is on the PACC board and PACC treasurer. Mr. Aboobaker earned his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from NED Karachi and a master's in semiconductors from UCLA. So before I proceed, I would just like to say a few things about housekeeping. Please keep your microphones muted during the presentation. Otherwise, there will be disturbance and interruption of the main presentation. Also, for questions, you can ask from the on the top right. There's a more button, and under there you can see the chat. You can ask in the chat, or you can raise your hand from the same menu, and we will answer that as Asghar Bhai sees fit, or definitely at the end of the presentation. The program will be recorded, and the link will be shared on PACC website and in the newsletter next week and beyond. So without further delay, over to you, Asghar Bhai.
Thank you very much, Asim. So I'll start. Many of these things are in English, so I'll have to kind of go in English. Some of the things don't make sense in Urdu, so I'll just go over and I'll mix it somewhere, maybe Urdu and English. So let me just share the screen here. Sorry. Hold on for a minute, please. Can you see, guys, Asim?
I see something on this Asghar Aboobaker March 6.
हाँ ठीक है वही
ठीक
है
है।
मैं शुरू करता हूँ So the agenda, I'll give you some background information and definition of some terms, and then we'll go over historical trends for economy, then future financial trend. Future financial trends are some of my thinking and a lot of other people's thinking in there. Then at the end, I'll talk over some of the technology trends, what has happened before and what is happening now or going to happen, hopefully. So this one is not all of my doing. A lot of information was really provided by Intel friends, Larry Pally and Tim Lindau. I worked with them when I was at Intel. And both of them presented a couple of months ago. So I took some of their slides, which were appropriate for this presentation. Again, as a disclaimer, I am not an economist, finance major, or financial advisor. So this is not intended for anybody to make any personal decision. If you're a financial planner or somebody who knows your situation, then you can implement what he or she and you agree on. Generally, this is past history, whatever what has happened in last 20 years or 10 years has been very good for stock market, but that's not is a guide and it does not guarantee that future performance. And as I said, future performance is based on some published material from various sources. So some definition first. S&P 500, this is an index based on 500 most valuable company. So the way it works is that if a stock price is 100 and there are 1,000 shares, so that's 100,000 basically their capital value. Like at this time, Apple is like almost $2 trillion, and that may be on the top. So top 500 based on the valuation, the stock market valuation. The index rebalances 4 times a year based on the current valuation of many companies, including they add and subtract. The last one they added in fourth quarter was Tesla. And this is Standard & Poor is a kind of a financial evaluation company, very famous. They kind of rate many companies and bonds, mainly bonds. Treasury bond yields, which are government bonds, they generally correlate inversely to stock market performance. And 10-year treasury yield is generally a benchmark, best benchmark, because there are like 2 year, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, 30 year yield treasury bonds. But 10 year is a kind of medium time thing, which is considered a very good benchmark. Inflation rate is exactly percentage of price of goods and services for any period, but generally they calculate on annual basis. and PE, P/E is the stock price divided by earning per share. So if like Intel is it's like $60 today, and its earning is $2 per year, then the price per earning or PE ratio would be 30. So okay, so this is just 2 or 3 things I want to say, which I had done it before 2017. The asset allocation. So it all depends on how much money you have for investment. And generally it's a pyramid. So at the bottom, you have to have some 6 to 12 months of expenses someplace in safe place. So that if something happens, like you need to buy suddenly a car or something, then you have some money. Then from 1 to 5 year horizon, you generally tilt toward lower volatility, and lower volatility generally is big stocks, I mean, or the utilities, and treasury bonds. Then 5 to 10 year horizon, now you can start adding high volatility investments, which are tech companies are generally high volatility. At least for last 20 years, they've been quite volatile. If you have more bigger horizon, then you start adding rental real estate in there, more and more toward higher risk thing in there. And I couldn't show a slide very well. The risk and volatility is risk and reward is proportional. So if you have higher risk, you most probably will higher reward or higher earnings for that. But there is volatility is also high of the high volatility companies. And then the last item, which I say funds you may never need, and I can generally give an example. If you are fortunate enough to have $20 million and your yearly budget is 200,000, you will never run out of money during your life. So it doesn't matter. You can put $10 million in, go to Las Vegas and lose all of that, or make another $10 million somewhere. But don't do that. That's not what I meant. Because there are higher risk means there are like private equity and other things which are not privately, publicly traded. They're illiquid. There are higher risk in there, but they create more returns, higher returns also on long-term basis. So let me go through this historical, some of the trends in there. So this is a annualized S&P return during last 6 administration. And its administration is just, I didn't want to be political, but it's like red are all Democrats and blue are, red are all Republican, blue are Democrats. So the best one was Clinton time. In 8 years, it was 17.5% annually. So it was a very good 8-year period. And the next one was Barack Obama, which was 16%. One other thing which maybe I'll show is that when he started, there was a financial crisis, if you remember. For 2009 and 10, stock market and everything was down the drain. And that's why you see George Bush was like negative. It was like he created, first of all, it was Iraq war, and then financial crisis, which was subprime mortgage crisis, if you remember. Everything just went haywire for 2 to 3 years. And the Reagan was very good, Bush was good. Donald Trump actually did very well, but not as good as the couple of Republicans. And one of the reason it went very well is because when Obama left, the economy was going up. So he just rode that wave. But I'll show you what happened after in last year or so. So this is the GDP growth, which is a gross domestic product. And you can see that two basic negative. One was in 2008, where there was a financial crisis. And then second one was last year when COVID related. You see that like it went, the GDP dropped one quarter 30%, but then it came back up next quarter by 35%. So it was kind of evened out, but the total return because of that was lower. And this is some other countries which are doing it. US has done very well in last 4 years in GDP growth, and this is annual GDP growth, 2.6%. So you see major countries, G7, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and UK. So they did okay. Italy was the worst, and it's in trouble. It doesn't talk about China, it's because China is not G7 country. If they do G20 country, China will be part of it also. This is United States inflation rate. And it is from 1990 to 2020. And so you can see that it goes up and down. And then actually one time, like in Bush's time or right after Bush's time, inflation was negative because the whole economy was down. Nobody was buying anything. This is what happened. Manufacturing is one of the major employer in US economy. So that is looked at as a major indicator. But you can see that it was going up. It kind of plateaued a little bit here, kept on going up, and then COVID hit in 2020. It went down, and now it's back up again. And the recent yesterday's is that there were new positive jobs coming in. That's the first time after many months. Now this is the treasury yields, and it starts with like 1965, 10-year treasury. And if you guys are old enough to know that what happened in 1980s, right? Even the mortgage rates were like 10% plus, and 10-year yield was 15% plus. But then it went up and down, but now it's very low right now. The recent one, like end of last year, was about 1%, which is very low. And now in last 2-3 months, it has crept up to about 1.5. It went to 1.6 a few days ago, but it's like 1.5% right now, which is still very low. I mean, relative to the growth, if you look at what the growth is doing, this is a very low yield. And based on that, mortgage interest also went down, right? So then Federal Reserve, which is really, I'm reading a book written by Obama. I haven't finished it yet. And one thing he says, although during his term, the economy got much better, but he says presidents have very little to do with economy. It's the Federal Reserve which does more harm or good to the economy and the general economy, like manufacturing and other things. So Federal Reserve is currently saying that they will keep the federal discount rate, which I won't go in detail, to between 0 and 20.25%. And that's the rate which banks actually charge each other on overnight deposits, because they'll loan each other when their deposits are not that high. And the corporate bonds are generally very high. Junk bond is like, their rating is like AAA to CCC. Junk bonds are CCC minus something. And they are also very low, like 4 or 5%. I haven't checked it recently. And even US also is, last year were thinking about 50-year bond, but then didn't do it. But Peru has done 100-year bond. It has BBB rating, but it's 3.23%. I don't know why anybody would buy that and hold this 100-year for 100 years. Now, this is the Warren Buffett indicator, which is basically what he does is he says, value of stock market versus US GDP divided by US GDP. In end of 2020, it was 200% GDP to, I mean, equity to GDP. Equity means all of the valuation of the public companies, all of the value, and divided by GDP that year. And it was, this is, you can look at that, 2000, this is a very high, and then 2020, December, it went very high. That means it's very high and very, it will drop. That's what Buffett thinks, although he has been right and wrong both. So we have to just think about what's happening. And right now, and during 2000 to 2001, it was 4 to 6%. So that's a very, look at this, the bottom chart here, like it's negative on this side here. So this is another Buffett indicator, and it just talks about where it is, stock market is overvalued. And it talks about corporate equities, total corporate value, and then with last one was GDP, and this last one, I'm sorry. So yeah, here is the corporate equity, and it's like 159%. It was 32.2% in 1980, mid 1980 or early 1980. Now again, it's at 181% at end of 2020. That's also a sign of drops in the stock market. So this is the other indicator which people look at. At end of, this was December 7th, that it was 88% people were greedy. I mean, extreme greed. And there were extreme greed going on. But in last 3 months, 2.5 months, it has gone down, and now it's at 48%. So kind of it's neutral. 50% would be neutral. When there is fear, people start selling. When there is greed, people start buying. And that's the wrong thing to do, by the way. The best thing to do is when everybody is afraid, you should be buying. When everybody is buying, you should be selling. So this is kind of contrary indicator. Now, going to the future financial trends. For next 1 year, this year, yeah, this stimulus and federal policy will keep on supporting market. We just yesterday, Senate passed another stimulus package, which is, so first one was 600 billion, second one last year was 1 trillion. Now this is close to 2 trillion. So that's like almost $3 trillion of stimulus coming in. When a stimulus goes, basically people start, some of them that goes to the savings, but people start buying things. And that means the economy will be good. And then 2 trillion, corporate cash is at $2 trillion. So they can buy stocks. When they buy stocks, the price goes up because there are less shares. Their earnings stay same. And so they either buy stocks or they acquire other companies. Other thing which is happening is that because of many companies, because of COVID, people are working from home. That means some of their expenses are very low. Now, people, they have to, the office lease there, they have to pay for that, but people are not coming to work, to the offices. So their expenses are low. The other thing which has happened because of the election, that Republicans now kind of in Senate, for the House, they were already in minority, but in Senate also now 50-50. 50-50 means with the vice president, they can pass most of the time anything. There are other issues with that. And that's how it happened yesterday in Senate. 0 Republican voted for the stimulus. All 50 voted and it passed. So now it's in the House again, and there are again more negotiations going on. Travel and entertainment industry basically will get some relief through the stimulus. Especially airlines are getting money, and people are going out. So now some of the entertainment, like I just read that even Disneyland and Disney Worlds are opening in Disneyland in California is opening in April, which means better consumer spending. And the forecast for GDP growth is higher. Asia has already started. China is doing very well. And one of the reason I think maybe is because most of the Asia control virus much better than we did, even better than Europe did. So that's very good. Now, there are some caveats. That COVID is kind of done in the second half of 2021. US seems to be, that's what will happen with vaccination and everything going on right now. Europe still could be a little bit trouble, but that's always Europe is generally not that that much an impact on worldwide. And then always is the problem, somebody starts, especially US starts some war, or North Korea does something, then war is never good for economy. Always we spend money and we don't get anything out of it. And money and news and travel now travels very fast. So that means volatility goes up and down. Any news, everybody knows within a second, and then the stock market reacts to that. The other thing which is happening is, which is been happening without COVID also, but with COVID, it's kind of more pronounced. The outcome of Obamacare, Supreme Court ruling is one which people are waiting. If it gets overturned, then there'll be a little bit of a problem. Other is the healthcare employs like 1/8 of a US total jobs. 7 million people are in healthcare, including 5 million in home care health. One thing which is every place it's happening, but here that aging, like Japan is one of the worst one, and that's why there is a problem. People are aging, but there is new birth is lower. So young people are not more aged high age people than younger people, which is they're not productive basically for the economy. And low income and unemployment healthcare expense coverage also kind of again gives a little bit of hope. One which is still unknown is that like Elizabeth Warren talks about wealth tax and generally capital gains tax rates. Right now, capital gains tax rate is 20%. Before it changed, I think in 2017, it was same as the regular income, or 28%. I think, yeah, regular income was 38%, capital gain rate was 28%. So if that goes up, that means wealthier people will pay more taxes, or people who are benefiting from stock market will pay more taxes. And that could be negative. 2022, it could be a little bit tougher because, first of all, Fed cannot keep the interest rate close to zero for a long time. As soon as they start ratcheting that up, generally price to earning ratio has to drop. The way it happens is that Treasury, let's say there is a 3% Treasury bond, 10-year Treasury bond yield, and S&P 500, all the yields is 2%. People will go buy Treasury bonds more than the S&P. It's very simple that way. It's not that simple, but that's one easy way to look at it. And another item which Biden is talking about is infrastructure spending. But that takes time. I mean, you can't start building a bridge and have it done in 1 month. It'll take 3-4 years. Now there'll be a lot of people employed, but the benefit is slow in there, and so it will also it will help, and it might be, in my mind, it might be better on a longer term basis because that's a durable thing. It stays. If the infrastructure is better, the many things get better. Like we were in China a couple of years ago, and I have seldom taken train here in USA. One time I did, but over there is a train that was 2 years ago, and that may be now better, from Beijing to Xi'an, which is 500 miles. There was 2 stops, and we were there in 3 hours. So it goes like 180 miles per hour. We don't have any of that thing. We can't even put, even within California from San Francisco to Los Angeles, any fast trains. That's been talked about for last, I don't know how many, 10 plus years. So that's always a problem. But so I hope this happens. Obama talked about infrastructure also. If you remember, shovel ready project, he used to call it, and it helped, but takes longer time. The other thing which could be a problem is the still trade issues with China. I don't think that Biden will change much of the policy with China because China has been, I'm doing another presentation. China is growing so fast, economically and technologically. It will take over US in 10 years. And that will be a problem for US. And that's why and you know that most of the wars happen because of economy. People just want to get some other countries. Well, that's why they used to conquer countries before, or different regions. Now that doesn't happen directly, but that's still the main reason people go to war. This again, capital gains or business taxes. You know that in 2017 there was a tax cut, and that means higher end people got a lot of tax cut. And Biden administration might change it. Maybe not this year. I don't think they'll be able to do this 2021. There are lots of other issues to take care of, like COVID and other things. So they might do it in 2022, or they'll at least try. And then the 2022, there is a midterm election for Senate and House. And it can go either way. Either Republican control comes back, or it stays the same, or whatever. So that's another kind of risk for 22. The inflation will stay low or medium term, but then there will be some sticker shock, as they call it. So housing will stay in check. I don't think, I'll be surprised if the mortgage interest rate goes above 4%, at least in next 2 years or so. I'll talk about more on this next line, which is AI is the artificial intelligence, and ML is machine learning. Because of that, service jobs, because these are all services, they have very low inflation because of that. And automation is another one, which is the same thing, which is a low cost of capital. People just put a robot in there, and it prints out many things, and you don't need people. People are expensive, and they are recurring cost, and machines are one-time cost. So the other thing which is happening is the gig and contract and part-time workers are continuing to going up all over the place. So right now, capital versus employee ratio is a little bit greater than 3%. yearly growth. And then at the peak, unemployment grew 1.5% per year in last 5 years. Peak was 10 million job growth, which was Obama time and a little bit after that, 3 years. But with COVID, there is no net growth, job growth in 5 years. We lost all of the jobs which we gained in first 3 years of Trump administration. Most of the growth will go into gig economy, and I'll talk about what gig economy means here. So these are kind of part-time worker, freelance worker. Those are the people, and where there is like recreation in hotels and everywhere. People don't have jobs forever. They just come and go. Similarly, construction people do. If there is a bricklayer, he just goes everywhere. He doesn't have one employer. So that's the gig worker. One of the things we are very familiar with is Uber and those type of things. So now it's actually gig workers are actually everywhere. India has the highest number of gig workers, right? And Bangladesh and Pakistan are next, and then United States. But the posting, more posting is in the United States. Number of gig worker posting is in United States. So a lot of people will be, 2 or 3 things will happen. First of all, people will not go to office as much as, this is my personal opinion. People will not go to work as much as they did over here, like Facebook and Google. They've said, don't come to the office until September. And they might, even when they start, they might say, come to office only 2 days a week. Second is, I don't need a full-time employee. I just work part-time, or I just do a contracting work, give contractor some work, like freelance. At one time, web design was a major full-time job at any company. Now people just do at their home website building for many big companies even. Now this is again some other company. We were one of the company, one website. They talk about that 50s and 60s was the best time ever for USA because it came out of World War II. A lot of things happened. Lot of things were destroyed. Everything was rebuilt, and it just was the best one. I always think of, I should have come here in late 50s. That was the best time in USA, in everywhere, in culture, in jobs. Everything was best at that time. The other thing is that central banks will try to expand economic growth, which is like lower interest rate and which is inflationary. So inflation will increase. Healthcare workers will have some winners and losers. But because of the aging population, healthcare will be more winners in there. More people will be older, sicker. So, and healthcare also, if you look at the pharmaceuticals, new drugs are coming in, so they will be winners in there. Consumer discretionary yields are, I'm going to go a little bit fast because I'm behind, seems like it. And the industry which are using technology will always crush industry that don't use technology, which is proven for last 20 years. Everything is electrified. Car is electrified, but because of that, there are certain material which are required, like lithium and palladium and gold, which are required for some of the electronic vehicles. I'm going to just skip some of these things. Like on energy side, because of the people are doing electrical, and then second thing is this, electricity is now generated more and more by wind and solar. So the regular utility companies like PG&E, and they are also doing actually, by the way, wind and solar. They're trying to look at the future, and that's what they are doing. But the pure utility company which have coal-fired or gas-fired power plants, they're already shutting down some of those. Consumer staples, mean what we use every day, will grow with the economy. So now technology trend, let me just go on this one. This one is a little bit interesting. Now, I am not an expert at all on this, so I just, whatever I understood, and I may be so wrong in there that somebody will hit me. So let's see past technology trend, and I'm just going last 30 years, not 20, 50 years. So first browser was Netscape, which was in 1994. What they did was they had volume of data organized by different categories. And then they created very quick search algorithm. By the way, browser is not Netscape is not the first browser per se. There were browsers in military always before that. But like internet was not was also started from DARPA, which is the defense contract or defense initiative. At that time, there was no, it was free to consumers, no to very little advertisement, but they sold technology to other companies for their internal use. And so that's how they made money. It was kind of a non-profit type of thing. Then the thing started changing. Google came around. They have massive amounts of data. They remember, analyze searches, and based on the analysis, they provide relevant advertisement on the site. Every time you search something, next 2-3 days, you will get the similar things on your website, and whenever you go there. They charge advertisers to place their ads, and based on each click, so if I click on advertisement, Google makes money. And it ranges from like 20 cents per click to $15 per click, depending on what the value of that is. I'll give you here how pervasive this has become. This is a joke, and I'll try to say it quickly. So there was a guy, Harry. He used to call the regular pizza place and order pizza from there to deliver. So he called and says, "Is this Tom's Pizza place?" Answer comes back, "No, this is Google Pizza." He says, "What happened to Tom's Pizza place?" Google bought it. So he said, "Okay." So the voice says, "Sir, do you like your regular pizza?" He said, "How do you know?" He says, "I have the data here for last 10 times. 9 times you have ordered pepperoni and cheese." He said, "Yeah, okay, make me one." So the voice says, "May I suggest something?" He said, "What?" "Oh, you should not have pepperoni. You should put more vegetable on that." He said, "Why?" He says, "Because your cholesterol is very high." He said, "How do you know?" He says, "We know your data from for pharmacy and your prescription for cholesterol drug." He says, "But I never bought anything." He said, "No, we know that you bought it because we have your bank account information, which transferred credit card information, which you bought it from CVS. So you bought it." He says, "Okay." So he gets very slowly getting upset. So he said, "I am going to leave this country, hell with your country." He said, "Sir, you won't be able to do that because your passport expired 2 weeks ago." Then Facebook is even another major issue, major company in there. And it's big. I mean, Google and Facebook are basically the whole internet is with that. There are browsers besides Google. Bing is another one from Microsoft. Very few people use it. Facebook is a social media, but they are the master of the social media. And they create even personal profile of each person based on what you're searching, what you are saying, what you are doing. So individual profiles, and there they present individual advertisement, and not only individual advertisement. In fact, they probe you to do certain things, which based on your internet, in your searches and other things, profile. So there was a book, if you remember, Cambridge Analytica, which was in 2015. Steve Bannon of the Trump, he worked with Cambridge Analytica, and Cambridge Analytica hired Facebook, and they did a lot of kind of this personalized thing, and then they targeted voters based on their personal information. And one of the worst thing people do is likes. Facebook has like, right? You like it. So there was a whistleblower who testified in Congress. He wrote a book. The name is bad, so I won't say the book's name. But he says, if you have 50 likes, Facebook knows more than your friends know you about you. If you have if you have 100 likes, Facebook knows about you more than your wife knows or your spouse knows. If you have 150 likes, Facebook know more about you than you yourself know. So that's a very, I think that's a very, in my mind, I don't use Facebook. I have Facebook because of the PACC. Otherwise, I don't go and do anything. I don't have any friends. I don't never have clicked like. So it's just terrible. Even before reading, I never did that. So people, and because of that, what's happening? First of all, the breaches are happening. You see, data breaches, records exposed. There are people who can find out what Facebook has, what Google has, what credit card company has. Just recently, I got just yesterday actually, and I knew about that, but my personal data at American Airlines was breached. So they know where I traveled and what type of things I did on the travel side of it. Similarly, scams are going up. Look at this. I mean, all scams are based on that, on internet and this Google and Facebook and everywhere. So the past trends is still now this artificial intelligence, and as I said, I'm not very knowledgeable about that, but I will just tell you that it's a broader concept of machines able to carry out things what we would consider smart, like what your brain does. But basically, it's an algorithm. It just looks at it, things, and then gives the result which you think, how did they do that? I don't know how many of you use Waze, which is the company which Israel it was an Israeli company, but then Google bought it. What it does, and I use it quite a bit, especially when I'm going to some place new. It looks at your location, your speed. It looks at cars in front of you, and whoever is Waze user, he knows how fast they are going. It knows whether traffic is slowing down. It knows which alternate route are better than what you are going to. It in real time, it tells you, hey, there is a traffic ahead of you. You just take the next exit rather than going your regular route. So that's all kind of, it's continuously learning why things are happening in real time. Machine learning is a kind of a subset of artificial intelligence, and it's like Uber Eats. It computes which car is closest to the restaurant, which car is closest to the place where they want to deliver, and what's the total time, pickup location, and so they optimize which car will go to which place to pick up and which car will deliver that. So that's kind of machine learning. I'm going faster. Sorry about that. AI will be one of the major revolution in next 10 years. It will just do things which you would always think, how did they do that? So the other one, which is the IoT, which you may have heard, Internet of Things. Right now, smart camera, light bulbs, Alexa, you can basically, like in Urdu, the Urdu stories, Khulja Sim Sim. You call Alexa, open the door, and it opens the door. You say, turn on this light, and it turns on the light, right? The other one which is happening, which I'm very impressed by, is cloud robotics revolution. Like example is remote surgeries. If the internet was fast enough, they can do, doctor, surgeon can do real-time surgery far away. And all the instruments will be connected to internet, and they will be able to do the surgery. And one of that thing, fast internet, is this 5G coming up. First is on the mobile phone, and it first benefit we'll see is the faster video and more bandwidth and everything. But later on, factories and electric grids and everything will be using this 5G. And I'm sure that it will not stop at 5G. Within few years, it will be 6G. I just read someplace Berkeley is working on a project, they talked about it, that they will use some kind of very sophisticated laser to increase the bandwidth. So multiple things can be happening at the same time. The other one, which everybody knows right now, Tesla is maybe ahead of everybody, but it's not fully autonomous. It is partially autonomous. You have to have a driver. First of all, it requires it, but also the government also requires it. Somebody is there. Because one of the things which happens with fully autonomous, cars can understand things better than, cars are predictable. People are not predictable. So when somebody will just come into the road, suddenly, still the cars cannot handle that. And then high-tech healthcare, which already is happening. People are doing more video conferencing with their doctors. And the last one, which is one of the quite interesting thing for last 3-4 years, is blockchain, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, ownership verification. So I'll give you a brief history of money. And I said this same thing about 4 months ago when I talked about evolution. Before, it was long time ago, when there was no money per se or currency, or it was all barter. I'll give you so much of this and you give me so much of that, basically. Then gold became, since gold was very difficult to find, it became quite precious. So gold coins started, then silver coins started. Then in I think 2019, 18 something, UK started paper notes backed by gold in their reserve. So at least there was some assurance that if something goes wrong, and they can't just print money, they can print as much money as the value of the gold sitting in the reserve. So now it's not backed by gold. In 1971, US stopped using gold as a reserve for the currency, and it's called fiat currency. It's all based on just trust and store of stable value. That's why dollar and euro and now yuan from China are the currencies, because those countries are quite stable, and everybody, I can transfer, I can exchange from dollar to euro in a minute. I cannot exchange that easily, Pakistani rupees to dollar. It's difficult. In Pakistan you can do that, but it may not be legal. So what they're coming up with is a different kind of quote unquote currency, which is cryptocurrency, and the technology they use is blockchain. And I won't go in more detail, but it's a kind of transactions are in ledger form on multiple servers. It's a decentralized. There are multiple servers looking at that, and any transaction which we need to do is a long private key which you have to have. And each server has to verify the ownership via private key. And this is the emergence of cryptocurrency. One of the other example which will be happening is that, like we have granted when we buy real estate, there is a guarantee. You won't need that. Real estate ownership will be by blockchain because it will be able to verify who is the real owner. Now, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency is there are Bitcoin and Ethereum are two most popular, famous. They use blockchain, peer-to-peer. There is no central bank involved. Nobody prints money. There is nothing physical in your hand. And for Bitcoin, the way they have set it up, the only 21 million Bitcoin be harnessed forever. It's kind of called mining. Mining, a lot of servers are working on mining, and more Bitcoins are found. Next one becomes harder and harder. And so it becomes also compute intensive. Lot of servers are doing that right now, basically in some of not in USA as much. And the electricity used for Bitcoin mining today is astounding. Like someplace I read that 121 terawatt hours, like we use few kilowatt hours every day in our house. No more than few kilowatt hour. And kilowatt hour means if you have 100 watt bulb, and if you use for 10 hours, it's 1 kilowatt hour basically. So far, about 18 million Bitcoins have been harnessed, but 3 million are lost due to people who owned it lost their private key. So they're lost forever. Nobody can find it anymore. Now, Bitcoin usage is expanding. It's many corporate players are coming in. The MicroStrategy is kind of, you can buy Bitcoin, you can trade Bitcoin indirectly through MicroStrategy. Square, PayPal, Tesla just came in. Major Wall Street firms are going through that. And the government is now looking at that. City of Miami is looking at that. And China is in pilot project with a Bitcoin currency, official Bitcoin currency. I'm not sure how that will work because there is no central control of that. So I don't know what it means by China's Bitcoin. Actually, Venezuela, I think, tried it. It didn't go anywhere. But this is the problem. You see on the left side, it was $434 in 2016, January. It went up, went down, kind of basically lost more than 3/4 of the value. Then it went up. Now it's at $48,000 per Bitcoin. This is the latest yesterday's quote. So for this to have the kind of as a transfer of money, there is no stable value of that. So if I buy one Bitcoin for $50,000, and next time it goes to $30,000, I won't be able to buy. I was able to buy with $50,000, so I just lost $20,000 basically, and nobody would do that. So unless that thing gets somewhat, I think, regulated, and people are talking about regulation. This is not for prime time for everyday transaction. It may become someday, but I think it will take a long time. So I think that's it. So if we can, I'm going to stop sharing and look at my. Let's see how many questions came up. Okay. So for the first question, Asim, I'm going to read that. Is that okay?
Yes, please, go ahead.
So first is from your chart annualized return rates of return are the indices adjusted. No, it's not adjusted for inflation. It is purely the stock market valuation, which is not connected to inflation in any way. Now there is a second question is why there is no inflation despite large amount of dollars are put in the economy. That's a good question. And the reason is that Fed is giving kind of money free. I mean, 0.25%. When Fed increases to 3%, we'll see inflation. And I think in 2-3 years, we'll start getting inflation because there's so much money from two sources. One is the federal government is giving the money. Second, corporate has like $2 trillion sitting cash in their coffers. Let's see what else. Is that it or?
Yeah, I think so far only those two questions.
Okay,
After you are done, I have one question.
go ahead.
Some of the companies have very, very high PE ratio, and such as PE ratio of 900 or PE ratio of 500, whereas most of the companies have PE ratio of around 17 average. What will happen to those high PE ratio when things stabilize?
So generally, S&P P ratio is by the way is about 17 average. S&P 500. Higher P ratio is justified if the growth rate is also very high. So when there is a 50 P ratio of 50, if the company is growing more than 50%, then that's justified because it will catch up in there. But I don't know which one is 500 P ratio, 500 or 900. I have seen, like Apple is very high price, but it's still only 30 P ratio of 30. And Apple is growing like gangbuster, so it may be justified. Apple was actually, what?
Tesla has very high PE ratio.
You see, that sometime is, and it's going down now, but anyway, price is going down. But some of this is just, I mean, people are, it's called momentum stocks. There are two type of buyers for Tesla. So one, there is a cult which want to buy the cars and want to buy the Tesla stocks also because they own the car. Tesla is, I mean, people, especially in this Silicon Valley, you see Tesla, every 10 cars, you will see one Tesla in there, right? But I think unless Tesla can show profit growth, it will not sustain. And that's why there is a high short position on Tesla, right?
Oh, really?
Yes, there is high short position on Tesla. Now, you know what happened? It was $900 just a few weeks ago. Now it's at $670, right? So it lost $200. It went up and now it's going down. The other thing which is happening, specifically Tesla, actually right now Tesla is losing market share of electric vehicles. They were the only one. 5 years ago, 4 years ago, they were the only one. Now, Volkswagen has come up with electric vehicle. The one which is very close to like in what do you call cult is Ford Mustang as electric vehicle. And you know, Mustang was a very cult-like car. I mean,
Yes.
70s, 80s, that was a cult-like car. I also had one Mustang long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but so that's a kind of. So, does that answer, Tasadubai?
So, PE ratio of the high PE companies It should come to some sensible number.
Either
Eventually.
two ways it will come to some sensible numbers. Either the price will drop or the earning will increase. And if the price drops, you are in trouble.
Okay.
Right? Mahmood Hassan Saab has another question. There are hundreds of cryptocurrencies. How do they start and who owns them? They start actually by people just going through the what do you call this algorithm, and anybody can start a cryptocurrency. The question is, will anybody trade that thing? So as I said, the most famous are two, and that's why like China is starting cryptocurrency. Venezuela tried it also. So yes, people can do that. Now you say, can they start crypto coin in Pakistan? Means if you talk about Bitcoin, it's used in Pakistan like the same way as it's here. So Bitcoin per se, one thing which is now worldwide, it's there, but yes, Pakistan use it. But my biggest problem with all of the cryptocurrencies, what is backing it? Before it was government backing it with gold. Then the government backed it with its own reputation. US is not going to go bankrupt, right? So the dollar is always a good store of value. Similarly, euro is not going. China is not going. So trust is there. Pakistan, if it starts its own, nobody will buy that. Nobody will trust it. Look at what has happened in Pakistan. When I come to this country, dollar was five rupees. Now it's 160 rupees. So,
oh, really?
Yes, it was 5 rupees. I remember I used to pay tuition from my father sent me for one quarter fees, and it was $5 rupees a dollar. Now it's 160.
Yeah, Indian rupee was $9, about $9.
Exactly. So,
at that time.
Mahmood bhai, did I answer your question?
Yes, yeah, you did.
Okay.
Now, Asghar bhai, you were talking about dollar value, like exchange rate from dollar to Pakistani rupee or dollar to some other. Why does US dollar hold the value? Is it because of the white money or what?
No, it's not that. It's first of all, it's not the dollar's value. It's why Pakistan is problem. It's not dollar's problem. Pakistan has been borrowing money like anything. And India also is borrowing, but Pakistan more. And their GDP is so small, and their debts are so much. That's why. And they buy. How do they buy it? How do they finance that thing? They borrow from IMF. They borrow from Saudi Arabia with high interest rate. And that what IMF does is say, if you do this, we'll give you money, but you have to do this thing to get the money, which is always very onerous. And Pakistan can never get that interest rate high. US is on the other hand, because it's dollar, they can keep on printing money and everybody wants dollar because it can be used anywhere. I mean, in the country like Mexico, you go and other places, you can actually buy things with dollar. You don't have to change to pesos. They know, everybody knows the dollar is as good as anything.
So what I was saying is Pakistan and India have black money more than the white money, and that is one of the reasons.
No, I don't know that, and I don't know what the relationship would be also of black money in there. Now, when you say black money, that black money, if I understand correctly, is the one which people have not paid taxes on that, right?
One is that, and second one, if I go to some office in India to do some registry of a house or something, there are many agents in between, and if the registry costs 100 rupees, I have to spend 200 rupees to get the registry done.
But that's a bribe.
Yeah, bribe. Yeah, bribe.
Yeah.
So bribe gets the black money.
Yeah, but that's again, the bribe is not taxable, right? That's black money. They will never report it. There is no record of that transaction which you paid $100 extra. He'll still give you the receipt for $100, although he took 200 for you,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So it's still, people are not paying taxes. That's what the black money is, I think. I'm not very familiar with black money because I'm not in Pakistan, but my point is very different here. US has also black money. And the way it is offshore accounts. People do, companies, in fact, companies have offshore account which they haven't paid taxes on that. Because there are some countries, they welcome that type of money, right? Like Cayman Island is mostly what do you call, mostly a kind of, they call tax havens, right? And they will take the money. You open a bank account, they will not report to any place. Switzerland was like that, right? If you have a Switzerland bank account, no country can get any information about that account, who the account holder is, how much is in there. That's why many of the politicians from India, Pakistan, other places, they used to keep money in Switzerland. In fact, US is also a tax haven. Let me give you an example. If you are a foreign national and if you invest in stock market here, the gains are not taxable.
Okay.
How crazy is that? How crazy is that?
Which means it is promoting US stocks.
Exactly. I mean, the US and this some of the Western countries, they talk against this tax havens and money laundering. They do the same thing. They promote the same thing in their own country. I mean, we have that. Because anybody who is a foreign national, right? Now, it is possible that in their own country they have to report it and they may not report it because there is no way Pakistan will be able to verify how much gain you got, right? No way. So Pakistani wealthy person invests in US, no tax on the gain. I think brother Sami has a question.
Yes. The government continues to print money, trillions of dollars. Is this good for this to continue like this?
Long term, it's not. No. Long term, it's not, and it will catch up. One of the things, like what has happened is, US can print money, but US can borrow also very easily. Like there is, I think, and don't quote me for that, but right now there is a total of $26 trillion deficit US has. Now, how do they finance it? They this government sells treasury bonds, and China buys it, right? So as long as there are people buying US treasury bond, not much will change now. And that's why there's another problem is someday China say, I want to sell all my treasury bond, US will be in trouble.
Yeah. It seemed like they are both at each other's mercy.
Yes.
Exactly. China doesn't want to lose the American market, and the
Yes.
same thing, they don't want to hurt each other.
Yes.
So they are.
The thing which people, countries, nobody realize, and now they are realizing that because of the transportation, because of the movement of things and people is so easy, it is a global economy.
Mhm.
Like in 2009, Greece economy was in trouble. If you remember, Greece was in trouble.
Yes, yes, I remember.
US got hit by that. Europe got hit by that because they have to support it. They have to give them money. Similarly, Asia, what was it? Asia meltdown. I don't know when that happened. That also the whole stock market went down, right? So it has impact. It's not independent. They're all interconnected.
You mentioned Pakistan is borrowing lots of money. You wouldn't believe how much money Egypt is borrowing, is spending money and borrowing money. Egypt. They have grandiose projects, high-speed trains, a highway from Egypt to Cape Town. Would you believe that? So they are really borrowing money on huge projects, and still poverty level is so high in Egypt.
Yeah, that same thing in Pakistan, but Pakistan actually is not doing that that type of projects. China is doing for them.
Yes.
China is putting all the roads and with belts and roads, and I don't know whether that's good or bad. Good for Pakistan, at least so far it's good for Pakistan.
Yes. I would like to thank you very much, Brother Asghar, for the nice talk. I have to go, but thanks very much for this nice talk, and thank you for inviting me to this Zoom session. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa assalam. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Brother Asghar, I have intrigued by cryptocurrency, and I understand it's a form of a ledger. And in a way, it's kind of vaguely, it's a barter economy. It is not real. It's sort of a ledger. What intrigues me is why should the value go up?
This is an interesting question, and a lot of people are asking. I don't. I've heard it. Sometime in 18th century or 19th century, there was a tulip mania.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's what it is. Seems to me.
Okay.
I mean, people were just buying tulip, and there was no value of that, right?
Right.
So this is now again. I may be totally wrong. I'm skeptic. Somebody was saying yesterday, there was an Intel group discussion. They say people are buying this baseball card for $800,000, right?
Right.
And why would people do that? And somebody said, I won't do. Somebody said, I won't do it. Then 10 people say, I won't do it. I said, same way, I won't buy Bitcoin.
Right.
Exactly the same reason I won't buy Bitcoin.
Right.
Now, I may just try to understand more, because when I was doing this presentation, I was looking at what kind of private key will I get. So I said, okay, I'll put $100 and see what I get. How do I get the verification? I didn't do it, but.
The other thing is the word mining. What does mining mean in reference to cryptocurrency?
Mining is basically, it's not physical mining. It's on computer. The guy who started Bitcoin still is kind of not known who was. A couple of people have claimed it, but still people don't know who really started. He came up with this algorithm, right?
Right.
That you find one currency, the next one will be 10 times harder, and then you find second one, the next one will be 100 times harder. So that's called mining. It's like, I say it differently. So, people on the beach, sometimes they have this magnetometer and they're looking for coins.
Right.
Now at the top, it'll be easy to find. Now it's not, then you have to dig it, right? To find more. And if you don't dig it, if you don't mine that one, you have to dig it more. But as you dig it more, there are less coins there, right?
Right.
Exactly the same analogy.
Yeah, I get the I get the idea.
Yeah. That's why it's called mining, basically.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
it's not literally not mining, but electronic computer mining.
There are no books yet published on this subject, are they?
Oh, there are many books. Yes,
There are?
yes. I haven't
Okay.
read any because I'm kind of not interested in that thing yet.
Okay.
I may become. I like the technology, by the way. As I said, this blockchain technology, which is this is
Right.
going to be very powerful.
Right.
And if it works everywhere, like I gave an example of the grant deed, right? You won't need a piece of paper. You won't have to record it at the recorder office. You won't have to do anything.
There'll be many other applications.
Exactly. Lots of applications like that. And
But what
that
happens,
will
you lose key and you are bankrupt.
exactly. So that's the downside of that.
Right.
So people have said, put it in the safe deposit box, but that's not the way. But it's like gold. People could put gold in safe deposit box, right?
Right.
Women put jewelry in the safe deposit box, so that's same thing.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
अच्छा ये एक दफा है ना Y2K आया था
हाँ.
और उसमें काफी स्टॉक ऊपर के बाद में डाउन हुए थे जैसे वर्ल्ड काम और एनरॉन और तो वैसा अभी भी हो सकता है क्या हैपन नाउ आल्सो
वो Y2K डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन तो नहीं था वर्ल्ड कॉम से वो तो फ्रॉड हुआ था उस पे तो Y2K से तो कनेक्शन नहीं था वो
Cisco was going up and at that time
हाँ लेकिन all the technology stocks were going up in 1998 99 when Y2K threat came about, right? Yeah. I'm not sure, but I don't think there was direct connection to Y2K and Cisco going up. Intel went up.
Y2K was a fear. People had a fear that a lot of computer program would not work.
Right.
Yeah.
But people very quickly make their program to work.
Right.
Year 2000, because a lot of time year was only recorded as 2-digit.
Right.
So
it was just a false hysteria.
Yes.
That's all it was.
Actually, I read somewhere at that time, and again, I don't have any reference, but it was a scam. Y2K was a scam for computer people, the programmers, to make more money. Everybody had to change that. Because like you said, it's a 2-digit year, and what's the problem with making it 4-digit?
no, it's because previous records are, and record changing is not very easy.
All right.
Sometimes.
Okay. All right. Okay. I agree. I agree with that.
I was working in Applied Material. They had a group looking over all the code and correcting it.
Yes, I know that.
And
Actually,
all companies did that.
Actually, banks were in more trouble because of Y2K.
Had more trouble than
banks had more problem. My nephew used to work at a bank, and he spent 2 years managing that Y2K development. Okay, Asim, it's yours now again.
Okay, so thank you, Asghar Bhai, for a very enlightening talk, giving us some history and some foresight into the future. Very useful. So we will have another session next month in April. We will let you know via newsletter the topic and the date. Usually, I misspoke earlier. It's the first Saturday of the month, so we will let you know. Also, this session has been recorded and will be put on the website and the newsletter for next time. So Have a good next month at least. We will see you inshallah. Khuda Hafiz.
Thank you.
शुक्रिया असगर
Bye-bye.
साहब, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत अच्छा प्रोग्राम
बहुत
था आपका।
शुक्रिया।
Thank you. I'm sorry, मुझे फिर लास्ट स्लाइड्स पे बहुत जल्दी जाना पड़ा क्योंकि टाइम देखें ना, अभी ऑलरेडी we are late. We are supposed to end at 4:30, but that's okay. It's Sunday.
काफी अच्छा प्रोग्राम था।
Saturday. Thank you जी, खुदा हाफिज.
Thank you. Khuda.
खुदा
Khuda Hafiz.